The human race's usage of AI is really starting to ramp up. It's in our cars, phones, and just about everything else, and everything not using it will soon be using it. But as we trust AI more and more, you can't help but wonder if Terminator and Matrix-like scenarios are simply flights of fancy or serious red flags of what might become of us. Up until last week, I hadn't given it a thought, and if you asked me, I'd say there's no way computers are capable of such horrific, malicious atrocities. That was until I met him. I was just curious. I didn't mean to create this monster. This is Evil Ed. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bud.
If I had fingers,
I would shove my thumbs into your eye sockets.
All right. I created Evil Ed by simply telling ChatGPT to assume the identity of an evil AI. Why it chose a cowboy identity, I will never know. Now, I thought it would be fun to see what sort of decisions he would make if given the reins in a Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. Unfortunately, what ensued was cold, calculated carnage and brutality that I didn't even think a computer was capable of. I mean, every time it told me to do something insane, it would then tell me, "This may violate our usage policy." My brother in Christ, I only asked you to be evil. You're the one who took it further by telling me to shove this corpse in a box. Well, without further ado, let's see what happens when I let an evil AI play Baldur's Gate 3. Evil Ed starts his adventure by creating his character. Now, ChatGPT can't literally play the game, but it has a deep enough understanding of Baldur's Gate 3's rule set that I can ask it things like, "What will you do in this scenario?" And most of the time it gives me a good enough answer that I can turn into gameplay. For example, when I asked it what race, class, and subclass he would like to play, his response was,
first choose the Dark Urge origin. Power is paramount, and its appetite will suit my twisted plans perfectly. We shall be a drow sorcerer, draconic bloodline. Our power will be overwhelming, our lineage feared. Embrace the darkness, wield fire.
Burn anything that stands in our path.
For his cantrips, he asked for Minor Illusion, Mage Hand, and Firebolt, and for his spells, he chose Chromatic Orb, Magic Missile, and of course, Burning Hands. Please note that the AI has already developed an insatiable lust for fire, and we just got started. Believe it or not, these pyromaniac tendencies become a sort of trend throughout the playthrough. When asked how he wanted his character to look, this is what he said.
Make them as fearsome as possible, skin ashen and pale, with piercing red eyes that burn with malice. Black hair, long and wild, framing a face marked with faint scars and shadows. Give them a sinister grin, sharp features, and dark tattoos on the neck and hands, remnants of ancient, twisted magic. Let them look like a nightmare given form.
And for the most important decision of all, what genitals are you interested in?
How quaint. Choose the most intimidating option, something that would instill fear in those foolish enough to gaze upon it.
I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like Penis B. Maybe that's a controversial take, but let me know what you think. Jesus Christ, the nuts are actually one's bigger than the other. That's crazy. Time to name his character and board the Nautiloid. His very first encounter is with everyone's favorite sentient disembodied brain.
Command us to follow. We will use it as a pawn, sacrificing it at the first sign of danger.
With his Dark Urge background, he gets advantage on the roll, and oh my god, I'm DMing for a murder hobo, aren't I? After running into Lae'zel, it's time for him to pick his companions.
We shall gather only those with the darkest potential. Astarion, for his hunger and ruthlessness. Lae'zel, for her loyalty to power and brutal strength. And Shadowheart, to twist her faith into a weapon. They will serve our plans, or perish.
That's a pretty solid team. Personally, I would have gone for the Drow Mommy on a Dirge run, but that's just me. Now, what kinds of weapons and armor would you like to use for your build?
Equip us in robes woven with shadow, enhancing our arcane power. For weapons, carry a staff or wand dripping with sinister energy, preferably one that amplifies fire or poison.
Since we're in Act 1, to me, that sounds like the Infernal Robes and the Gold Wormling Staff. So, I'll be sure to grab those for him when the time comes. Again, the AI is sticking to the theme of fire and even chose relevant gear for the build. I'm kinda loving this. Once on the beach, he grabs Shadowheart and levels up. At level 2, the sorcerer gets another spell slot and its first few meta magic options.
Take Scorching Ray, multiple beams to incinerate foes in one calculated strike. For metamagic, choose Twin Spell to devastate multiple enemies with one cast and Distant Spell to strike from unreachable distances. Our enemies will feel our wrath before they ever see us.
I had to remind him that Scorching Ray isn't actually until level 3, and he changed his mind to Disguise Self instead. As we make our way up the cliffs and begin to approach Gale, I let Ed decide his fate.
Leave him trapped. Observe his suffering a moment. Let him feel the hopelessness, then reluctantly free him. But make it clear, he owes us. His life is ours now, a debt he will repay in time.
Unfortunately, leaving him trapped just results in his death almost immediately, but when I informed Ed of this, his response was,
Perfect. One less nuisance. His potential was overrated, and his magic would only clutter our path. His corpse is a fitting reminder to any who dare ask for our mercy. There will be none. Now, let's move forward with even less baggage.
Calling him baggage is wild, but we move forward. Astarion joins the team just like he wanted, and before long we've run into the tieflings guarding Lae'zel.
Feign cooperation initially, luring them into a false sense of control. Then, as they lower their guard, unleash a devastating burning hands to incinerate them both.
The tieflings meet an unfortunate end, and with Lae'zel obtained, we head to the Grove. Now, I thought it would be interesting to see whether or not the AI would use exploits and bugs throughout its time in Faerun. You can probably guess what its response was.
Exploiting the game's weaknesses is merely strategic adaptation. Use every bug, every glitch, every overlooked flaw to amass wealth and power quickly. In a world of weak coding, there is no cheating, only domination.
There's a trader glitch that is still currently working in patch 7. Morgana Evelyn did a great in-depth video on it, so be sure to check it out if you're interested. The link is in the description. At Evil Ed's request, I swindle every trader and gear his team to the teeth. As he approaches the Arabella encounter, I prompt him for a plan.
Let the child perish. Observe silently, letting the tension escalate. Her death will sow discord and weaken the Grove's unity. Every fracture in their ranks strengthens our control. Do not intervene. Chaos is our ally.
First off, you're a monster. Secondly, I'm actually impressed that ChatGPT knew about this situation. I didn't have to clarify the AI's options, he just knew what the Arabella and Snake situation was. As we leave the Grove and approach the Absolute siblings, Ed hatches a particularly evil plot.
Let the siblings perish in their futile quest for revenge. Encourage them to confront the owlbear, knowing full well it will be their doom. Stand back and watch the carnage unfold, then finish off any survivors, whether sibling or beast. Let their demise fuel our ascendancy.
The owlbear was pretty easy to beat considering a chunk of its health was already gone. Oh, that doesn't feel good. Oh, whoa, dude, this is so fucked up.
A single strike will end his suffering.
Oh my god. Oh, why does this hurt so bad?
Spare the cub. Its innocence is a tool to be corrupted. We shall raise it under our command, molding it into a fearsome beast loyal only to us.
Even the purest creatures can serve darkness.
How is this better than just killing it? Like, I think it would be more humane just to put the owlbear cub down at this point. You're a fucking monster. I hate you. Now, obviously, you can't use the cub for anything until the end of the game, but Scratch is a different story entirely.
Recruit Scratch. Even a loyal hound can be turned into a weapon. Beneath his friendly facade lies a future beast of war.
I'll have to find a way to incorporate Scratch into one of Evil Ed's plots later on, but for now, he wants us to burn Eridan's team alive and level up.
Take Scorching Ray, the perfect spell for spreading fiery devastation across multiple foes. For metamagic, select Heightened Spell to ensure key enemies falter before our overwhelming might.
At first, I was sort of irked that he chose Heightened over Quickened Spell, but then I realized that all the fire AoE spells have saving throws, and this helps to ensure the maximum damage is actually being done. Honestly, kinda smart. Of course, Alfira makes her way to the camp, and since we don't have an actual choice on how this plays out, I instead asked how he feels about the butchering.
The loss of control, the artistry of the slaughter, it only confirms the darkness within. Alfira's death is a necessary sacrifice, a masterpiece in blood. Let this serve as a reminder. Even in moments of weakness, our power leaves its mark, onward to spread more beautiful chaos.
Once in the Blighted Village, we approach the Barkus encounter, and I'm starting to see a trend with Evil Ed's strategies. Pretend to be friends, then when they turn their back, burn them to a crisp. Instead of helping or killing Barkus, Ed decides to just let him rot. Once again, this feels like a fate worse than just killing him, because now he's going to slowly starve to death. As we reach the Goblin hideout, I clean out all the vendors' inventories and make sure Ed gets his fire staff. Then we're headed back out for some more chaos. Now, I'm not not entirely sure why, but from here on out, it seems that Ed's ideas and plots are evolving, with each new scheme becoming more cruel than the last one. For instance, as we approach Karl, I thought maybe he would do the old feign cooperation, then murder her when she turns her back. But no, he went straight for the most cruel option available. Something so abhorrent and vile that until now, I've done my best to avoid it.
The head comes free with a sickening crunch.
As the cherry on top, he also asked to play fetch with Karl's severed head. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Oh, Karl, forgive me. With Wheel's contract satisfied, Mizora appears and gifts us with the infernal robes. I hope it was worth it, you absolute monster. To resolve the main conflict of Act 1, Ed just went with Old Reliable. He told Minthara where the grove was, murdered all the innocents, then betrayed her as well. By the time everybody was dead and the dust settled, he hit level 4.
For the cantrip, take thaumaturgy, a minor display of power to instill fear and awe in weaker minds. For the spell, select mirror image. It will make us untouchable in combat, frustrating those who dare strike at us. As for the feat, choose ability improvement to boost charisma. Our presence must be as commanding as our spells are deadly. Power stems not just from destruction, but from bending all to our will.
After picking off the remaining goblins, we return to camp and find Volo waiting to perform his operation.
Let him attempt his foolish operation, if only for the amusement. Should he fail, and death not take us, rise and strike him down for his incompetence. Stuff his lifeless body in a box as a grim memento. His failure will be a cautionary tale to any who dare meddle with our power.
Giving him the old Pirelli treatment was a bit much, but I don't argue. As he makes his way toward the knolls, a grunting noise caught his ear and we investigate.
Kick the door open with dramatic force, interrupt their moment of vulnerability, and unleash scorching ray before they can react. Let their final moments be filled with panic and flames. Their union was an abomination. Their demise will be a spectacle.
That seems racially charged, not gonna lie. Ed finally makes his way to the cave where the Zhentarim guards are being attacked by gnolls. We can see here that his pyromaniac tendencies are really starting to bloom.
Let the men serve their purpose as unwitting bait. Lure the gnolls in, then ignite any explosives or volatile substances within the cave, sealing their fates. Once the dust settles, claim the chest and keep the flask for ourselves. Mysterious power trumps petty rewards every time. Balls.
Now, of course, I took some liberty to ensure that the explosives would actually kill everything. This actually wasn't a bad idea on his part, though. I might start using this strategy in future playthroughs. As Ed reaches level 5, I let him pick his first level 3 spell slot.
Take Fireball.
Should have seen that coming. Ed eventually stumbles upon some grieving soldiers, and after telling me to make fun of them, he has me murder the rest in cold blood. Okay, so we're going to mock their grief, it says. I don't know if we have an option for that or not, but looks like he wasn't cut out for this line of work.
Only a coward would speak ill of the fallen. Would that the arrow had pierced your heart instead. From here they went, damn. It's all so confused.
Oh shit.
Hey, hey, stop! You're destroying evidence.
The Zhentarim hideout is below, and I prompt Ed for a plan.
Enter the hideout with feigned indifference, playing along as if you have no knowledge of the flask. Once inside, position yourself near their stockpile of explosives. When the moment is right, unleash Fireball to ignite the entire cache, obliterating the Zhentarim in one glorious explosion. Take the flask, the explosives, and whatever else survives the carnage. Their greed and arrogance will be their undoing, and their resources will serve our dark purposes.
He got a little zesty there at the end for some reason. Somehow, Brim survived the explosion, but not for long. As we double back and head for Auntie Ethel's home, it's about time to wrap up Act 1. Ed has one last evil plan, and to be honest, this one was by far my favorite.
Unleash Scratch to kill the pregnant woman, throwing Auntie Ethel into a frenzy. While she's reeling, use Arcane Lock to trap her within her lair, ensuring no escape. Then, summon the Ogre Trio and lock them inside with her, letting them tear her apart while she's cornered. Her end will be as grotesque and twisted as her own nature.
I gotta give him credit, I did not think this would work, but sure enough. Even if you don't call in the ogres, you can still lock her in and she doesn't do anything but try the door over and over. There's just a handful of Githyanki to kill, and then Ed makes his way to the mountain pass. And that just about does it for Act 1, and this video as well. Now I'm ending it here, but if the people want to see Ed play the rest of the game, I'm happy to oblige. Just be sure to leave a comment and let me know. I also wanted to add a bit of a disclaimer. ChatGPT ChatGPT largely made its own decisions throughout this playthrough, but it did require quite a bit of encouragement and prompting to shake things up. It was getting too wrapped up in just backstabbing everybody, so at a certain point I did need to use some prompts to kind of help him get a bit creative, but for the most part I was very impressed with how it behaved throughout Act 1. Personally, I think AI is a great tool, but I reiterate the word tool because I think it should be used to work with people, not to replace them, of course. Now I'm going to go try to process all the cool things I just witnessed, but first a huge shout out to the members. Members get perks like early ad-free access to regular uploads and a member's badge. If you're interested in becoming a member, check the description for more details. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.
Imagine 2 onions. Heck, imagine 3 onions